What's the reason why you don't talk to your mom anymore? Growing up, my mother was the sun around which our family orbited. Everything, no matter how insignificant, was about her. If I got an A on a test, it was proof of her superior parenting. If I failed, it was a reflection of my ingratitude for all she'd done. I couldn't win. Neither could my siblings. I remember one summer. I'd been working a part-time job and saving up for a second-hand car, a small taste of freedom, something mine. But when I had enough, my mother announced that she was borrowing the money. She needed it for a beauty treatment, one of her many attempts to recapture a youth that was slipping away. My protests were met with guilt trips about all she'd sacrificed for us. The car dream evaporated. As years passed, the episodes intensified. When my younger brother, Jake, was diagnosed with a learning disability, she took it as a personal affront, choosing to view it as an act of defiance rather than a genuine challenge. Instead of seeking help or understanding, she locked him in a relentless cycle of tutors, punishments, and more guilt trips. My turning point came during my college graduation. As I walked across the stage, diploma in hand, I searched the crowd for my family. But all I saw was my mother, towering over my siblings, wearing a dress so flashy it nearly outshone the ceremony itself. The day wasn't about my achievement, it was another stage for her performance. The isolation grew. My friends couldn't understand why I wasn't close to my mother or why I cringed at Mother's Day ads. Comments like "but she's your mom" or "every family has its quirks" made it even harder. I felt trapped in a narrative where speaking out made me the bad guy. After about a year and a half of meticulously saving every penny from my job, I finally managed to secure a new apartment about an hour away from my hometown. It was a small, unassuming place, nestled in a quiet corner of the city, but most importantly, it was mine. Those plain walls, once an uninspiring backdrop, now felt like formidable barriers safeguarding me from her relentless influence. But as the days turned into weeks, I realized that physical distance wasn't enough. She'd call daily, sometimes multiple times. Her voice, dripping with false sweetness, would always begin with superficial questions about my well-being. But soon, it would devolve into critiques. My choice of neighborhood was questionable. The job that allowed me to pay my bills was beneath me. And my decision to live alone? Clearly, a sign of my rebellion. In an age of social media, she found new ways to invade my space. She'd send me articles about the rising crime rates in my area or news about layoffs in similar industries. And then there were the surprise visits. I'd come home to find her waiting by my door, armed with groceries and unsolicited advice, ready to inspect every nook and cranny of my life. Every interaction was an exhausting dance. I'd juggle setting boundaries while trying not to escalate the situation, fearing the emotional fallout. But her tactics were insidious. She'd befriend my neighbors, making herself a regular presence in their lives. It wasn't uncommon for me to learn about my life updates from them, updates I hadn't shared. Months into my newfound independence, she crossed a line that shattered any semblance of our already frail relationship. She contacted my employer under the guise of concern, citing her worry about my mental state. The subsequent meeting with HR was a humiliating ordeal, as I tried to explain the dynamics of my personal life while retaining my professional dignity. She had concocted a web of lies, claiming that I had spoken ill of my employers, tarnishing their reputation with falsehoods that had no basis in reality. The fallout was catastrophic. My once promising professional connections crumbled beneath the weight of my mother's deceit. Trust had eroded, leaving me stranded in a professional no man's land. My boss, with a heavy heart and masked disappointment, subtly hinted that perhaps it would be best if I resigned. I had no choice but to follow that painful advice. The resignation, once a source of pride and accomplishment, now served as a bitter reminder of the depths to which my mother would sink to maintain her grip on my life. In a radical move, I cut all ties with her. I chose to go no contact, a decision that was as difficult as it was necessary. To escape the toxic orbit she had woven around me, I packed my belongings and relocated to a city far removed from my hometown. The apartment I found was small and run down, barely accommodating my basic needs. My savings, once a source of security, dwindled rapidly, forcing me to adopt a diet of cheap cup noodles to make ends meet. Despite the financial hardship and isolation, there was a silver lining. I had taken the bold step of deleting all my social media accounts, erasing my digital presence entirely. It was a deliberate effort to start life anew, free from my mother's constant interference. I was broke, struggling to pay the bills, and navigating an unfamiliar city, but I clung to the solace that my mother had not been able to contact or locate me.